another story. Talking about the New Radhanath refrigeration. Well, I'll comment on two things. Number one, the fact that the Mahaprasadam had to be held was, of course, a nightmare. But the good news was that when Dr. Trivedi came and told us that we had to eat dal, it was about a year. It was already had been a year or so after I had been living here. And when I moved here, I weighed 165 pounds. And after the first winter, I weighed 118 pounds. And that's because the meals that the devotees ate were oatmeal with no milk and sugar for breakfast. And for lunch, you were served a bowl of dal and 11 chapatis. No rice, no sabji. A bowl of rice, a bowl of dal, and 11 chapatis. Now, I thought it was pretty wonderful when the hepatitis came because Dr. Trivedi then came and told us that we had to eat dal. Now, previous to that, I'd been living here for about over a year and eating dal every day. But I had no idea that dal was a bean. I thought dal meant watery liquid with a couple of potatoes and a couple of chickpeas and a few cumin seeds. I didn't know that dal was beans. So that was a great pleasure that we now had some beans to eat. So although the hepatitis was bad, the idea that we had some beans was quite favorable. Actually, it was because of sickness also that the devotees began eating rice with their lunch meal. The fact of the matter was that spring or summer had come, and the devotees in the dal, they were putting so much curd, and the devotees would always get sick from the bad water here and from just the different things. And so many devotees had diarrhea that Kirtananda Maharaj let the kitchen begin preparing some plain white rice for the devotees that were sick. All the other devotees didn't receive any rice with their lunch, just dal and chapatis. So first there was about 2 devotees that were sick and they were getting rice. And I was up in Kirtananda Maharaj's cabin one day and there was now 6 devotees that they were making rice for. And then about 2 days later I was on the sick list. Oh, I got diarrhea bad. No ice, no cold, no refrigeration at all. The only refrigeration was a tunnel that the devotees had dug into the hillside right up here. And the idea was that the devotees were going to dig this tunnel, and it was going to go all the way from here into the forest in the back. It was going to be a shortcut. Well, they only got about 20 feet into the hill. And this cave would fill with water. It would just seep in. So in the back of the tunnel, about 20 feet in, we dug a hole about 2 or 3 feet deep. And we would bring the milk cans up there and stash the milk in that hole of cool water from in the cave, and that was our refrigeration. It was the only refrigeration in the community, previous to the freezer for the hepatitis. So, another wonderful thing was when devotees, because we were starving, on Sunday, Taru would make the sweet rice, and there was, at the time I moved here, I think there were 40 devotees that were living here, and Taru was making for the Sunday feast 40 gallons of sweet rice. I remember clearly Kirtananda Maharaj cutting it to 20 gallons, and I remember clearly Taru crying. To keep it for the next day. So that meant Sunday nights, you would go scouting around to different streams or where you thought somebody might hide their sweet rice to keep it cool for the next day. Now this one Sunday night, Madhava Ghosh and I happened to be being the night guards because we were being attacked and shot at so frequently from this road, and after, of course, the bikers had attacked, we had a night guard system. So 2 devotees would stay up all night long and keep guard. And Kirtananda Maharaj bought some big shotguns for us to keep, to do night guard with. So while you were sitting out on the front porch out here doing night guard, your main meditation was, I hope no one attacks. And your secondary meditation, which was right up there with that meditation, and sometimes overcame it, was, I wonder if we can find any prasadam anywhere. So the night guards would spend their time making sure that nobody was killed in the community, and looking for prashad, so that they wouldn't die of starvation. And so, this one particular night, Madhava Ghosh and I were sitting on the porch with our shotguns, and we said, well, you know, maybe there's some sweet rice in the tunnel. Let's go up and check the tunnel and see if we can find some sweet rice. So we left our shotguns on the porch, and we went in the tunnel, and we had to walk along planks through water all the way to the back in the dark. And then you would reach down into this big hole in the tunnel and reach around, you know, to try and find a jar with sweet rice. So while we were in there looking for the sweet rice, all of a sudden Mom turns to me and says, "Did you hear something?" And I go, "I don't know." And we're listening, we're in the tunnel, and all of a sudden we hear something. So, oh no, we're the night guards, and there's somebody out there. We're guarding the refrigerator. You know, everyone heard what happened to the freezer. Someone might steal the tunnel, who knows? So Madhava Ghosh and I come running out of the tunnel, and sure enough, there's a car parked right underneath Kirtananda Maharaj's cabin. There's about 4 or 6 drunk guys walking around. And by now, they're holding our shotguns. So Madhava Ghosh and I come running down and convince them to give us our shotguns back. That was the story of Vrindavan refrigeration.
Before the 11 chapatis, there was one preparation for lunch, which was very, very austere. Sudani was the head cook. He's a fantastic cook, but you can only do something with what you have. And I was his assistant cook at that time. So one day, he told me to go down to the grain room to bring the grains up to prepare lunch. So I went down, and I came back up and said, "There's no bags of grains." He said, "No, there is bags of grains. It's down there. I saw it this morning. Go get it." I went down, I looked all around, came up, said, "There's no bags of grain." He said, "There is. I saw it this morning." I said, No, there isn't. I looked thoroughly. He said, "Is there anything down there?" He said, there was 4 bags of horse feed." He said, "That's it." That's what we're feeding the devotees every day. So I brought up this 100-pound bag of horse feed. There was pictures of horses on it. Big green letters said horse feed. And we ground it up. Remember that red grinder? It was by hand. It was really hard because the grains were so hard. And we would boil it in water and add some cumin seeds. And that was called upma. It was so distasteful. And everyone was looking and praying for some alternative. So the devotees who worked in the barn, we used to go up to the grain room, and we used to actually eat the cow's grain because it tastes better. And you remember the silage? Silage is, you grind up corn and stalks. It's not the part you eat of corn, it's the stalks. And you just store it for the winter in the silo. It used to be frozen like blocks of ice. So we heat it up in the bathhouse. And then we bring it in a big muddy wheelbarrow into the barn to feed the cows. This is the winter. And I remember one time that wheelbarrow was smoking with this rotten silage. And all the cowherd boys were gathered around it because it smelled so good. We all started eating it. Would you like to tell about last Purnima, 1973?
I'll give the introduction, you can give the story. For the night of the Rasa dance, for special nights, appearance nights are certain. personalities, and of course the rasa dance. Devotees would cook dozens and dozens and dozens of preparations, and we would make sweet rice and put it out in the forest. So the cowherd boys, that's what we called ourselves then. Siddhanu, Parambrahma, Paru, Radhanath Swami, Samba. Ambarish was one. We would often take prasadam together. Sometimes cow feed, but anyway, we would take prasadam together. And we kind of banded together. Like we saw ourselves as the cowherd boys. It was hard work, and Radhanath Swami and I, by the way, we used to team up. We had cows that gave so much milk at that time, 80, 100 pounds of milk at a time, which is 12, 14 gallons, which if you see a big 5-gallon bucket, fills up 2 buckets. So we would team up, Radhanath and Swami and I we'd team together. He'd get on one side of the cow and I'd get on the other. The faster you milk the cow, the better it was for the cow, the more milk you would get. So Radhanath Swami and I always had the biggest cow. Because we spent a lot of time together wrestling in the pujaram, so we were very strong. Wrestling is later, just to remind me of that. So, anyway, as cowherd boys would be, we were a bit cantankerous. And I was the temple president at the time. Radhanath Swami was a surrendered soul. So, as a surrendered soul, you have to follow the instructions as temple president.
The Ras Purnima was the night everyone waited for. Literally, devotees were working for weeks to make preparations for that one night. Over time, devotees would stay up all night making preparations because there was no time for them during the day. On Ras Purnima, there were hundreds of preparations. We had big kirtan at night for Radha Vrindavan Chandra. On this altar, we would put all the preparations the pujaris would. Mother Pratila, who was Kulati Prabhu's wife, was the head pujari at that time. And the idea was that all the preparations would be kept on the altar all night, because Radha and Chandra are supposed to be having their Ras Leela. This is for their pleasure throughout their Leelas. And the next morning, during breakfast prasad, all the prasad would be distributed. Another thing they did is they cooked a huge barrel of sweet rice and put it in the forest in case the deities in their transcendental forms go into the forest to dance. They have sweet rice there. And that was top secret. Only the most trusted, honorable devotees would be allowed to put that sweet rice in the forest.
Instructed by the temple president.
Yeah. So Kulaju Prabhu, being the temple president, but also being a cowherd boy of the barn, had 2 roles. One is the enforcer of justice, and the other as a thief.
Only with love, I thought.
Only with Mahaprasad. So there was Taru and Param Brahma. Taru happens to be the famous prasadam addict. He had a series of articles in the Vijayavasi Sphere entitled Confessions of a Prasadam Addict. They were very famous throughout our society. So Taru and Param Brahma were told by Pradati exactly where the sweet rice was. Now it's really a science, because you can't take it until after it's offered. And the offering is complete after Mangalarti. And the people who are supposed to get it under Kalaji's instruction were going to get it after Mangalarti. So what they did is they left during the Nrsimha prayers. And they ran out to the forest. And they stole the pujas. And then the group of people that came to get it couldn't find it anymore. But then Kalaji said that there's so many wonderful preparations that were offered on the altar. We have to get it. Otherwise, you just get a little bit. The devotees were being distributed. So they were thinking this is the most difficult Radhu that we've ever tried to attack. So Kalaji and Devakinandan and Parambaran were thinking, how could we get trays of this prasad? So they decided you have to go right in the puja area, right through the hall where everyone's waiting for prasad, this room out here, and somebody has to take the prasad right out of the puja room and gets off the altar and steal it. Who could do that? So we decided it has to be somebody who appears to be such a innocent, honest, Brahminical person that everyone trusts, but who's not actually like that. So they selected me. Kalaji Prabhu told me, you have to go in there and you have to get 2 trays. There were only 4 trays total. They were huge trays, gigantic trays that were stacked high. So you get 2 trays of the 4 for the 6 powder trays. And the rest of the community can have the other 2 trays. And I said, that's impossible. He said, no, it is. He said, along with the instruction comes the empowerment to do it. I said, but your wife is the head pujari, Kuchila. Everyone's afraid of Kuchila. I said, could you arrange with your wife that I'm allowed to do it? And he said, no way, I'm going to. It has to be done in such a way that she has no idea that I know anything about it. So I went into the puja room, and there was Kutila and Vijaya, the 2 head pujaris. They were just taking the trays off the altar. The cowherd boys were in the barn, and everybody was in this prasadam hall. You had to go through the prasadam hall to get to the puja room. And I was just kind of standing in the puja room, and they were looking at me and they said, what do you want? And I said, no, I just thought that you wanted me. I said, no, we don't want you. So I said, all right, well, in case you do want me, I'm here. And I didn't know what to say. But I had to do it, I was ordered. So then they went into the altar to get the next batch, and I just grabbed 2 of these huge trays. Between the 2 of them, they probably weighed about 50, 60 pounds. They were stacked high. And I covered them up with my chowder. So I was thinking nobody would see what I was taking out. And I walked through the whole pujari room with these trays under my chowder. My chowder had all these holes in it, but somehow nobody saw. And I just looked like I was just carrying out the instruction of Mother Katila. And I brought her into the barn, and the cowherd boys were dancing when they saw her. And I think they were smiling and embracing me. Taru, the prasadam addict. He was ecstatic.
We got one tray, we got all.
So what happened is we took those trays up to the silo where the silage was stored, and we buried it in the silage so people wouldn't see it. And then we had this 20 gallons of sweet rice, right? Something like that.
We got a 10-gallon bucket. They found one, and we had one.
We had 10-gallon bucket of sweet rice. So then it was time to serve out the prasad. And there were 2 trays missing and 10 gallons of sweet rice. So it was obvious who must have taken it. Somehow nobody, even though I walked by with all of it, nobody ever suspected that I did it. To this day, all the Cowherd boys knew. So they were wondering who did it. They were thinking it must be Devaki Nandan, Param Brahma, and Taru. They were very famous for getting prasad with their cook. So all the devotees were sitting waiting for the Ras Purnima prasad. They were not waiting, they were waiting. They were desperate all year round. This was their chance. So the pujaris came out and said, it's gone. It's gone. So the head server was Romahar Shankar. And he was like a chutney. Besides being a head serving, he was also in charge of cutting down trees in the forest. So what he did is he took on the responsibility like the sheriff. And he got a posse. He brought about 20 devotees who were angry as fire. They were convinced that the Cowherd boys stole the prasad. So they all came charging into the barn. And we saw them coming. And right in the barn there was this 10-gallon pot.
Prabhu